circle on chill. She makes her white, told her mine ain't your lil. Uzi too rich.
YouTube, it is your boy, No Fame Jalil, back with another banger reaction video. You know, hey, if you haven't checked it out, check out my Michael Jordan reaction and my Larry Bird going crazy. Thank y'all for the love, and I appreciate y'all for liking it up and liking in the comments, telling me to react to more stuff. Today, we got some baseball, you know what I'm saying? So, hey, we can react to some baseball today. We got How Good Was Ken Griffey Jr. Now, I'm not gonna lie about y'all, I don't know who he was, but I know he played with his dad, I think, I'm not mistaken. So we're gonna see how good he was, and like, comment, and subscribe. We're trying to get to that 600. Appreciate y'all for subscribing, and let's get it. And you know the saying, the grind don't stop until we make it to the top. Let's go.
If you were asked who the most talented baseball player of all time was, who would you say?
Babe Ruth?
Would you say it's Shohei Ohtani with his two-way superstardom? Would you say it's Barry Bonds and his absolutely insane power hitting
Wait, he plays pitcher and he
player
plays...
of all time was? Who would you say? Would you say it's Shohei Ohtani with his two-way superstardom?
He hits home runs and he's a pitcher?
Would you say it's Barry Bonds and his absolutely insane power hitting statistics? Or would you go a different route and say that it's someone like Mariano Rivera who dominated almost every single hitter he ever faced? Well, all of those would be very good answers, but when it comes to pure talent on the baseball field, it's hard to argue against the kid, Ken Griffey Jr. If you're a baseball fan, you know all about Jr. and his silky sweet swing. He's one of the coolest, most consistent, and most recognizable athletes not only in MLB history, but in North American sports history as a whole. Baseball kids have been wearing their hats backward because of Griffey Jr. for the last 20 plus years, and that will probably continue until we're all long gone. The impact that Jr. had on the game is unmatched in this era, and to this day, if you ask a baseball fan who had the prettiest swing of all time, almost every single one of them will say Griffey Jr. The guy was insane, but just how good was he? That's what we'll be going over today. In this video, we'll be going over the entire baseball history of Ken Griffey Jr. and just how much impact he had on America's favorite pastime. Ken Griffey Jr. was born on November 21st, 1969 in Donora, Pennsylvania, to parents Alberta Griffey and Ken Griffey Sr. Griffey Sr. was a heck of a ball player in his own right. He would play a lengthy 19-year career, spending most of it with the Reds, but also spending some time with the New York Yankees, the Atlanta Braves, and the Mariners, which we'll get to later. He would finish as a three-time All-Star and would even help lead his Reds to back-to-back World Series wins in 1975 and 76. Griffey Sr. was one of the biggest names in baseball, and in his time with the Reds especially, his son would spend a ton of time in the clubhouse, finding his love for baseball at a very young age. Ken Jr. would spend his entire childhood playing baseball at the Little League level, trying to be exactly like his dad was at the Major League level. This would continue all the way through high school for Jr. Jr. would attend Archbishop Moeller High School in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is actually the same high school that his future teammate Barry Larkin would attend just a few years prior. Jr. was a dominant two-sport athlete in his high school years, as he would dominate on the gridiron on top of hitting nukes every day. He was a monster wide receiver, and even received full-ride scholarships to play football at some powerhouse schools like Michigan and Oklahoma. Can you imagine Ken Griffey Jr. in the NFL? That would have been insane. However, he would ultimately focus on baseball entirely after the success he had. He only played high school baseball for 2 years, but they were a historic 2 years. Over his junior and senior seasons, Jr. would bat an absurd .478 while hitting 17 bombs, resulting in him being named the U.S. High School Baseball Player of the Year in 19...
Hold on, this man was hitting bombs like that? Hold on, wait a minute. Are you sure this guy was not taking, you know, the steroids? I heard back in the day people were known for taking the roids, my guy. So you never know with this guy. This style sounds a little crazy.
1987. Yeah, he was the best high school player in the entire country, while his dad seemed like an auto hit at the next level. The kid, to the shock of absolutely nobody, would completely forego college and declare for the 1987
He skipped college and went straight to the draft? Ah, damn.
MLB draft straight out of high school, and at the young age of just 17 years old. Jr. would be selected with the first overall pick by the Seattle Mariners. Just 2 short weeks later, Junior would make his professional debut with the Bellingham Mariners, the Seattle Mariners' Class A short season minor league affiliate. And in just 54 games, Griffey would take the baseball world by storm, batting .313 while hitting 14 home runs, driving in 40 runs, and stealing 13 bags. After this stellar season, he would be named the #1 prospect in all of baseball, and his future was brighter than ever. Junior would start his second season in High A and would play 56 games with the Mariners' High A affiliate San Bernardino Spirit, where he would absolutely dominate, batting .338 while also recording 11 home runs, 42 RBI, and 32 stolen bases, before inevitably being called up to Double-A. The #1 prospect in the world would finish the 1988 season in Double-A and would never play minor league baseball again. Griffey Jr. would make the Seattle Mariners opening day roster in 1989, and the rest is history. The kid would make his major league debut on April 3rd, 1989, in a game against the Athletics. In his first ever plate appearance, Griffey would smoke a Dave Stewart changeup into the left center field gap that would bounce off the Coliseum wall for a double. Ken Griffey Jr. had officially arrived. Just 1 week later in his Mariners home debut, Griffey would hit his first career home run in his first ever at-bat at the King Dome in Seattle. Just 1 week into his MLB career, Ken Griffey Jr. was arguably the best player on his entire team. After a super hot start, Griffey would cool down a bit and would finish his rookie season with a .264 batting average, 16 home runs, 61 RBI, and 16 stolen bases in 127 games, finishing as a finalist for the AL Rookie of the Year award, an award that would ultimately be won by Greg Olson, a closer for the Orioles. Going into his second season, there were very high hopes for Griffey to take that superstar leap, and of course, that's exactly what he would do.
Of course.
Junior would...
Bro, you know how good you have to be a rookie, the rookie on your team and be the best player? The rookie on your team and you're the best player on the team, you know how good you'd be, bro.
Start off the season hot, but the summertime is when things would get really exciting for Griffey and the Mariners. At the 1990 trade deadline, the Seattle Mariners would make a trade with the Cincinnati Reds to acquire a former All-Star and World Series champion, a former All-Star by the name of Ken Griffey Sr. Yep, that's right. The Mariners would pair up Junior with his pops, making them the first father-son duo to ever play on the same team at the same time. This was a very exciting time in baseball, as this had not only never happened before, but it was also a father-son duo that consisted of 2 very good baseball players. The 2 were so good, in fact, that in their first ever game together, with every eye possible tuned in, the Griffeys would hit back-to-back singles in the first inning and would both score. What a moment for the family, and it only went up from there. Just 2 weeks later, the 2 would hit back-to-back home runs in the first inning off California Angels pitcher Kirk McCaskill. The 2 would play a total of 51
Nah, this is some LeBron James shit. Hold on, this is looking fascinating.
games together before Senior would retire from the game of baseball in June of 1991. Despite his father leaving his side, Junior would continue his dominance, making his first 2 All-Star games in 1990 and 1991, and starting what could only be classified as defensive dominance, winning his first of 10 straight Gold Glove awards in center field. Over the next 3 years, Junior would bat over 300 in every single season, including an absolutely dominant 1993 season where he would bat .309 while recording a 1.025 OPS.
Oh my goodness, this dude was nice.
1993 season where he would bat .309 while recording a 1.025 OPS, mashing 45 home runs and driving in 109 runs. Funny enough, he somehow finished 5th in AL MVP voting this season. However, he did do something historic in 1993. During the Home Run Derby in Baltimore, Griffey would do something nobody had ever done before. He hit the warehouse past right field. Now that might not sound like a big deal, but that warehouse is so far that Griffey is still the only person to ever hit it. This was a big deal. The next 3 seasons for the kid were all shorter than usual, including his 1995 season where he only played 72 games, and he still made the All-Star team and won a Gold Glove. What a ball player. 1996 was the best season yet for the kid, but his 1997 season, wow. In 1997, Ken Griffey Jr. would bat .304, record a 1.028 OPS, slug an American League leading 56 homers, and drive in a Major League leading 147 RBI, giving Griffey his first, and very surprisingly only, American League MVP award. This was an absolutely dominant season for the kid, but it fell short as Seattle's lack of postseason success would continue. Griffey would nearly duplicate his 1997 season a year later, but would fall out of the spotlight due to the steroid era taking over. Guys like Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, and Mark McGwire were all the craze in the late 90s, and Griffey's numbers would start to look a lot less impressive despite them being just that. Just a few seasons after his AL MVP winning campaign, Jr. would make it known that he wanted out of Seattle and that he wanted to play closer to home. So what did Seattle do? They would deal him to the Cincinnati Reds, the same team his father won 2 rings with, and the city that Jr. grew up in. He would even change his famous number 24 to number 30 to honor his father.
Damn.
Griffey would have a monster first season as a Red. His OPS would go down to a 942, which yes is still very high, but is lower than average for the kid. Despite that, he would still mash 40 bombs and drive in 118 runners. This would be the best season he would ever have as a Red. This would also end his streak of 10 straight Gold Glove awards, an award he would never win outside of Seattle. Despite his Cincinnati career being much worse than his time in Seattle, he would still make 3 All-Star games and 9 seasons as a Red, and would surpass the 500 and 600 home run marks in the process, a dream for all hitters. In 2008, Griffey would be dealt to the Chicago White Sox at the deadline, ending his career in his hometown. He would only play half a season in Chicago before signing a deal with, you guessed it, the Mariners in the 2009 offseason. He was far out of his prime by now and was strictly a designated hitter, but it was very sentimental to not only Griffey, but Mariners fans to see him play 2 final seasons with the team before retiring from baseball. He would ultimately retire in 2010 due to him being a liability to the team he was a star with for so long. Griffey would finish his career with 630 home runs, which puts him 7th on the all-time list, right behind Willie Mays. In 2016, he would be elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame, receiving 99.32% of the vote, which is the highest election percentage of all time, breaking Tom Seaver's record of 98.84%, which stood for 24 years. Ken Griffey Jr. is one of the greatest players to ever play the game of baseball, was a cultural icon throughout his 20-plus year career, and built a legacy that will stand alone forever. So, back to the question at hand. How good was Ken Griffey Jr. really? Legendary.
Nice.
That's it. Do you guys think Ken Griffey Jr. is the greatest baseball player of—
Yo, I know none of this stuff about this guy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna like this video, y'all. Hey, check out Baseball Yak. Man, this dude makes some good content, bro. I didn't know nothing about this guy. Okay, all right.
Big dog, big dog, big dog. Roof popping out saying I'm great. Who? Biscayne drop, cut off my roof. You know how I'm coming this take. Who? Tell her, nigga, get out the way.